לשונובו, לא עשה לעגו רעה, וחרפה בת לא נשא על קרבו. נבזה בינם, נבממס, ודררנה יחבב בבית, נשבע להרע ולא ימיר, כספו בו לא נתן, בנשב ושרדה לנגיפי לא לקח, עושה אלה לא ימו בו לעולם. So when Jimmy asked me if I would officiate the funeral, I said right away that I would be honored. The answer was, for me, no doubts. Our relationships with Irv going back to July of 1999. In those days, I just started as a cantor of Temple Israel. And Irv was coming with Jimmy to say Kaddish over his passed away, his wife Helen, who passed away in January of 1999. Jimmy told me that Irv never was a synagogue person. He didn't read Hebrew, but knew Yiddish well. Once in a while, after the evening minyan, I was asked to sing something in Yiddish. I saw Irving's eyes, his smile, and that was a moment when we got connected. I knew that we will be friends from that moment, and we were. Last 10 years, he wasn't strong enough to attend services, but he still lived independently in his own house. And when I saw Jimmy in Temple, I said, "Where's your father? What's going on?" He said, "Cantor, he would love to come, but you know, his strength's not the same like it was. But he's still saying hello to you, he still loves you." I always say, listen, my regards to him also, I still love him, and he is the greatest person in my life, one of the greatest person I knew. Some few stories happened, like when he wasn't able to keep up in his house. Basically, he fell, and then Jimmy called me and he said, "You know, your friend, my father in the Elon Garden, in Allied." First he was in Allied on Morgan Highway. I visited him. I saw him exercising, and he saw me. And he pretended that he doesn't know me. I knew that I knew that he knows me. I said, "Irving, how are you?" He looked at me like, "What do you want from me?" Like, I said, "If you don't want to talk to me, it's fine. I'm just asking how you're doing." "I'm doing fine." It wasn't much to talk. It wasn't. And I understand that he was kind of depressed, because all his life, as far as I know, he was always independent, strong. He didn't want any help from outside, and at this time he feel like he kind of helpless. And then lately he ended up in Elon Gardens. If some of you know what is Elon Gardens also, it's not like a place for people like Irv. I understand not every person at his age can take it, and he was a person like I never probably accepted. And one of my short stories about him in Elon Gardens, once in a while I'm visiting, our members there. We have quite a few members in Island Gardens. And I picked up lunchtime and I was running all over tables from one person to another before lunch starts. And he was sitting by himself with somebody else also. And I sat next to him. He didn't want to look at me. I just, Irving. He just looked at me. So how you doing? Do you want to know how I'm doing? Do you think I'm doing fine? If I would be fine, I wouldn't be here. I didn't want to bother him with all kind of questions. I understand that it's more I continue to talk to him, it will be more kind of a formula kind of trouble. I said, oh, listen, I feel bad, but it's a good place. And when I said it's a good place, again, I didn't want to just see again this look, and I said to myself, okay, I better just stop. But he always will be remembered. I always will remember him, his personality will stay right in front of me until last days of my life. I can tell you, his love to Judaism and his smile, his honesty, his modesty, and I like the way he presented himself. He didn't talk much, but I knew by his face, by his mimics, I knew what he thinks, what he would say. He was such a person, like never maybe like a really like a social person, but he loved people, and I feel it. At this point also, I'd like to ask grandson Adam to come up and wants to say something.
We are. First, I want to say thanks to my mom and my aunt and uncle and my cousins and my brother and my sister for giving me this honor to do this. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm Adam Malamud. I'm Lynn's son, number 2 of Grandpa Irv's 6 grandchildren. I have the honor of representing the grandchildren, and I will try to be brief and to the point, because that is how Gramps would want it. I will also say that I'm only half cater, and I'm half Malamud, so this is probably going to be half too long in terms of Grandpa's eyes. But Gramps was an introvert, quiet and often stoic man. He was not particularly effusive or carefree with affection. This was most evident by his greetings after time had passed between you. Rarely one for kisses, more of a handshake guy for sure, but always eye contact and a warm smile. There was always a powerful aura of his presence in the room. He didn't need to say much for family, friends, and strangers to know almost unconsciously who the leader was. He just exuded that vibe. As I reflected over the last few days since his passing, I've come to believe there are 2 primary reasons or theories, my view, as to why Gramps was so introverted. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to share them this morning. First, he was the archetype of what is called the greatest generation. And I didn't think I'd get emotional when I did. It's past, okay. This generation, what I've read, is really characterized by 5 key traits. One is personal responsibility. We live in an age of blame today, and I never heard Gramps blame others or frankly even talk about others. He accepted the hand that he was dealt and he worked hard to make the most of it, just be grateful. But it was clear to me that he took a lot of pride when his grandchildren, his children, lived by this value too. Whether it was getting into a school, completing a degree, landing a good job, or a promotion. The second trait is humility. In his day, there was an expected norm of dignity and modesty. He never boasted, he was not flashy, he was always classy, as his granddaughter Brooke said. If anything, you saw him get a little miffed when others acted loud, boastful, or obnoxious. I still remember some looks I got when I was in my late teens and early 20s. In fact, those looks went toward my father, at least through my dad's 60s. The third is work ethic. Gramps had a work hard, play hard attitude. You worked hard in your job, you accepted your assignment, and if you did that, you had permission to blow off steam and enjoy partying and experiencing the world with friends and family. Number 4 is this notion of being prudent and saving. Gramps was not cheap. Rather, he was thoughtfully generous. Always a good tipper and always willing to spend money for great family memories. Dinners, trips to the beach, financial contributions or loans he made to others in the family and friends for their businesses, and of course, wonderful cruises with the love of his life. For me, there was a moment where this came to life when I was in graduate school where my scholarship went dry for a semester. My parents encouraged me to ask him for a loan, and I remember them talking about it and wondering how Gramps would respond. Almost that like he wouldn't be so generous because he was so prudent with his money. Not only did Gramps not hesitate to give me the money, but he wrote me a thoughtful letter, like a whole letter. And I never got a letter or even a deep conversation as I got from that letter ever in my life. And I won't go through the whole letter with him, but let me just say it concluded with the following line. Betting on you is one of the safest investments I can make. Usually pretty prepared, I didn't bring a tissue. How about this tie? I never wear ties. Thanks. That will stick with me forever, and I think embodies the man. The last is faithful commitment. Gramps had an undying commitment to his wife, his children, his grandchildren, his friends, and his country. And while his words didn't express this well, his actions never wavered. So this brings me to the second reason I believe Gramps was introverted. And look, this is my views, so, bear with me on this. I think Gramps was in pain on the inside. Call it depression, or likely dysthemia, this constant mild depression, that I think runs in the family in some way. Perhaps Gramps suffered from PTSD from World War II. Regardless, he did not have nor care to find the modern tools we have today to cope. And as these tools became available, I'm sure he would think they were silly or an excuse for just not taking personal responsibility in your life. Again, his generation just accepted, appreciated, and worked with the cards they were dealt. I believe Gramps loved his wife, family, and friends so much that he chose not to share when he was in pain. Rather, he built a protective veneer, an image of strength, and always chose his words carefully and thoughtfully to ensure those around him were cared for and protected. But here's the thing, despite his protective armor, the essence of was still seen by all in the powerful moments that stick with us. It is the fact that he had such a strong and stoic veneer, and we all knew it, that when his love was expressed, it shined so brilliantly. Those were moments when his heart was so full, it cracked through the stoic veneer, and his pride and love showed through. Albeit a quick glimpse, it was powerful. The essence of Irv comes down to what made his heart fill so much that it cracked this often impenetrable veneer and made him smile. So I say, please, all of you think about a moment that made him laugh or smile, and you will see what I mean. And I have just some examples of when he smiled, and this love just burst through. Gramps found memories of his Army buddies, and the sense of accomplishment and honor he had in his service shined beautifully against the cold and painful backdrop of the war he mostly experienced, likely, but did not share with us. Walks on the beach made him smile in Cape May. And that smile came on his face when his grandchildren met up with him there to enjoy the stroll. When Benny Goodman and swing music came on the radio, we bought him for a birthday years ago. When he had all of his family around a table eating a great dinner made by Grandma Ian. Or at a dinner in Cape May, when learning about the birth of a great-grandchild or grandchild's school or work accomplishment, or perhaps most strongly when he shared stories about the cruises he took with his love, Helene, or the romantic story of how they came together, which, if you haven't heard it, please ask one of his children. It's incredible. Grandma was such an overly affectionate person, for those who knew Grandma Ian. So one could only naturally ask, how could someone so affectionate be so in love with someone who is not overtly affectionate like that? And the answer is, he was. Behind the scenes with her, he was hopelessly romantic, I believe. Okay, I learned yesterday from Brooke and Andrea that he found great joy in watching Mr. Rogers with them as little kids. And that he admired Fred Rogers very much for his values. And I think we can all concede this. So there's a great quote from Fred Rogers that I like to conclude with. And it goes like this. Fred's quote. When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. And I think in this chaotic world, I think Gramps was the consummate quiet helper for his 100 years on this planet. Thanks.
Fabulous speech, right?